What if I told you that McLaren is secretly trying to copy Ferrari's most powerful weapon, but with a risk that could completely sink their season? Because while everyone was looking at the results, something much bigger was brewing within the team. A blown exhaust-based upgrade package that could change everything or not work at all. The big question is, have they really understood the Ferrari concept, or are they about to make the most expensive mistake of the season? McLaren did not reach this point by chance, much less by a simple bad streak. What we are seeing is the direct consequence of a start to the season that has not met the team's internal expectations, especially after everything they have managed to build in recent years. The team that dominated much of 2024 and that showed an aggressive evolution in its 2025 car, betting on redesigning practically every area of the car, now finds itself in a situation where it needs immediate responses, not progressive ones. The problem is deeper than it seems at first glance. In championship terms, the gap to Ferrari and Mercedes has been big enough to cause real concern within the team, but what is most disturbing is not the points, but the feeling that they have lost control over technical development in this new era. Part of this difficulty comes from their status as a client team, which limits their ability to fully exploit the new hybrid power unit, generating a structural disadvantage that they cannot easily correct in the short term. And it is precisely in this context that the decision that changes everything appears. The CEO of McLaren, aware that following the traditional path will not be enough to recover ground, is promoting a completely different line of development, thoroughly investigating the behavior of the exhaust and its impact on aerodynamics. We are not talking about a conventional improvement like a new spoiler or adjustments to the floor, but rather a technical exploration that aims to manipulate one of the most complex and least understood elements of the modern car, the exhaust gases. The evidence of this change of direction is not theoretical. It is completely tangible. During training in Japan, the MCL40 was seen with an extremely specific sensor system placed around the exhaust. A metal ring with multiple radial sensors and temperature gauges that have no other function than to analyze in real time how hot gases behave when leaving the engine. This type of instrumentation is not used in routine testing. It's a clear sign that McLaren is trying to crack a phenomenon that could redefine its track performance. But this is where the story gets really interesting. McLaren is not investigating this out of technical curiosity, but because Ferrari has shown that blown exhaust can be a devastating tool if used correctly. The Scuderia has managed to integrate this concept into its aerodynamic package in a way that generates downforce without penalizing speed, something that in the current regulations is practically pure gold. And while replicating that solution exactly is extremely complicated, McLaren has decided it's worth a try. However, this decision opens a scenario full of uncertainty. Because unlike other areas of the car where you can measure improvements directly, blown exhaust is unstable territory, where small variations in temperature, pressure, or geometry can completely change the aerodynamic behavior of the car. That is, there are no guarantees of success, only the possibility of a huge reward. What we are seeing in this first act is the birth of a technical bet that could define McLaren's entire season. It's not just an update, it's a change in philosophy. An attempt to recover lost ground not from evolution, but from extreme innovation. The problem for McLaren is not simply developing something new. It is understanding why Ferrari has made it work. Because this is where the difference between copying an idea and mastering a concept becomes abysmal. The blown exhaust is not an isolated piece that you can install and expect immediate results. It is a system that depends on perfect synchronization between multiple variables that interact in milliseconds. Ferrari did not arrive at this solution by accident. What it has done is integrate the flow of exhaust gases into the overall aerodynamic behavior of the car, using it to energize the air in the rear area, stabilize the flow, and increase downforce without paying the usual price in resistance. That is, they have turned a byproduct of the engine into an active aerodynamic tool. And that, in a regulation as restrictive as the current one, is a brutal advantage. McLaren, upon detecting this, has decided to go one step beyond simple observation. The package of improvements that the CEO hints at not only seeks to imitate the exhaust, but also to understand how to control its behavior in different phases of the lap: acceleration, braking, cornering. That is why the sensors detected are not coincidental. They are designed to precisely map how the temperature and speed of the gases vary in real time, something essential if you want to replicate or reinterpret this type of concept. But here the great technical conflict appears. McLaren did not design its car from scratch around this idea, unlike Ferrari. Your car already has a defined architecture, a mass distribution, and an established aerodynamic philosophy. Introducing a system now that depends so much on rear flow can generate unexpected side effects. instability in fast corners, loss of efficiency in the diffuser, or even cooling problems. And this brings us to the most delicate point of the entire development. For the blown exhaust to work as McLaren intends, it's not enough to measure. You have to redesign. Adjust the rear geometry, modify how the diffuser interacts with the flow, and even rethink the way the car manages engine energy. It is a profound, almost structural change that requires time, resources, and perfect execution. This is where the team's real commitment comes in. Because while other teams follow a more conservative evolution, McLaren is trying to shorten the path with a solution that, if it works, could immediately return them to the fight. But if it fails, not only will they not gain performance, they could worsen their current situation. In addition, there is a factor that further complicates this scenario: the regulatory margin. Ferrari has managed to find an interpretation that the FIA has allowed, but that does not mean it is easily replicable. McLaren needs to move on that same limit without crossing it, which makes each advance an extremely delicate balance between innovation and legality. What we are seeing in this second act is an invisible battle far from the cameras, where it is not about who has the fastest car today, but about who best understands the physics that will define tomorrow. McLaren is trying to crack a code that Ferrari has already begun to exploit. And the great unknown continues to grow. Are they really close to achieving it? Or is each step they take taking them further away from the real solution? And this is where this whole story stops being a simple technical theory and becomes a possible dividing line within McLaren's season. Because after weeks of analysis, data collection, and development in the shadows, the moment arrives where this package of improvements based on the blown exhaust has to demonstrate if it is really capable of transforming the behavior of the car on the track. The key is no longer in the sensors, nor in the collection of information, but in the execution. McLaren enters a phase where every decision counts: how they integrate that flow of gases within the aerodynamic package, how they manage to stabilize it in real racing conditions, and above all, if they make that effect consistent lap after lap. Because in Formula 1 it doesn't matter if something works once. It has to work always. This is where risk becomes completely tangible. If McLaren has correctly interpreted the concept that Ferrari has developed, we could be facing a brutal turning point. A leap in performance that would not only allow them to close the gap, but even alter the competitive order under certain conditions. Especially on circuits where aerodynamic efficiency and rear stability make a difference, this type of solution could be decisive. But the other scenario is just as real, and much more dangerous. If the integration is not perfect, if the flow of gases does not interact as expected with the diffuser and the rest of the car, the result can be exactly the opposite. An unpredictable, inconsistent car that is difficult to drive. A car that instead of gaining charge, loses it at critical moments. And that, in the middle of the fight for the championship, not only makes you lose time, it makes you lose confidence, points, and technical direction. This is the moment where the McLaren CEO's bet is completely exposed. There is no longer room for discrete evidence or partial interpretations. The improvement package has to speak for itself on the track, in front of Ferrari, in front of Mercedes, and in front of all the teams that are watching closely. Because let's not kid ourselves. If this works, it won't just be an improvement for McLaren. It will be a signal for the entire grid. A confirmation that the path that Ferrari blazed can be followed, adapted, and perhaps even surpassed. And at that moment, technical warfare will change completely. But if it fails, McLaren will not only have lost time in development, they will have invested resources, direction, and focus on an idea that does not return results. And in a Formula 1 as tight as the current one, that type of error can mark an entire season. So now it all comes down to a single question. When this package finally hits the track, will we see the rebirth of McLaren or the beginning of an even bigger problem? What McLaren is doing is not simply another technical improvement within its natural evolution. It is a declaration of intent. At a time where the team has lost ground to Ferrari and Mercedes, they have decided not to follow the safe path, but rather to go for an idea that could completely redefine their performance: the use of the blown exhaust as a key aerodynamic tool. The CEO has made it clear between the lines. This package is not a desperate reaction. It is a calculated move to try to break the current balance of the grid. But that ambition comes with an enormous risk, because they are trying to decipher and adapt a concept that Ferrari not only masters, but has integrated from the base of its car. And therein lies the difference that can make everything. McLaren is at a critical point right now. They have collected data, they have understood part of the phenomenon, they have developed a possible solution. But the most important thing is still missing: demonstrating that they can convert that theory into real, consistent, and competitive performance on the track. If they succeed, they will not only change their season, They could cause a domino effect throughout Formula One, forcing other teams to follow the same path and rewriting the technical battle of this new era. But if they fail, the blow will be much deeper than losing a few tenths. It will be having opted for a direction that does not work, losing key time in a championship where every race counts and where constant evolution is the only guarantee of survival. In the end, it all comes down to this. McLaren has decided to play a very different card from the rest. A card that can return them to the top or further distance them from it. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.